Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending where we are catching you in our big, beautiful world. Possibly catching this on a replay if you're not in here with us live. Roderick H. Norville, Full Circle Podcast. What's your story? And right now it is time for LCAO Book Club. We are making our way through Coach, the A.L. Williams story. I want to jump right into it. But if you're new joining us, hopefully you went back and watched the other chapters, because we're about, where are we at here? We stopped halfway through yesterday on Baxley. It was a long chapter. So we're going to pick it up where we left off. If you're new joining us, though, we'd love to know where we're reaching you. Go ahead and let us know in the comments. City, town, province, state. If you're in Barbados, West Indies, we love to know the parishes. And then I love seeing flags, man. I just love being reminded that, you know, we're all in this together, and unity eliminates insecurity. There's a lot of anger and hate out there. If you subscribe to all of that, I don't watch the news, but I think we're a lot more the same than we are different. Right? We all want happiness. We all want safety, protection for our families. And I just know I can escape into personal development and being inspired by stories. And you know what's funny? We all have one. We're all published authors. Some of us just don't publish our story. You know, we keep it inside. But how many people could you help, impact, heal if you've made it through the other side of your story? And that's what we're doing. So let's jump right into this. We shut it down yesterday. I want to make sure if I remember. I'm pretty sure it was. Hang on here. I'm going to start at summer. Hopefully that is good. If not, I'm sorry. You can order the book, I think. Maybe you can order the book. But we're talking about Baxley. And this paragraph starts with summer. So if I take you back just a bit, it was, he was sharing that in Thomasville, that he probably could have coached the team to a state championship, right? They already had traditions, they had success, pedigree, they just had that confidence, right? That boldness. And he said, though, at Baxley, he said he had an opportunity that he could build a program from scratch, right? So it would be his. It wouldn't be, success because of something from the past. He could create the traditions himself, and he was excited about that. He said, I could teach these 19 boys how to play real football. I had a chance to make a real difference. How many of you that resonates with? There's something in you, man. You don't know why you are the way you are, but your butt's always burning. You feel like I'm meant for more. Like I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to have an impact. Any of you show of hands? I know you're muted. Yeah. I think that's what we're attracting here, because you attract not what you want, you attract who you are. So let's jump right in this. It says, summer. From that day on, I did everything I could to give those kids a little pride. I brought in weights, something they'd never had, and I started them on a summer weightlifting program. I painted the locker room and hung up motivational signs like the difference between champ and chump is you. And the harder you work, the luckier you get. I got permission from the school to buy new uniforms and rent an air-conditioned Greyhound bus for our away games. Another first. I wanted those kids to know they were somebody. A team worth fighting for. I needed a good assistant, so I called up Lou Miller, a fellow football player and fraternity buddy from Presbyterian College. He agreed to be my defensive coach. That summer, we sat down and put together a football program from scratch. How? Well, first, we threw out the 2-inch thick playbook I'd built since Thomasville. These boys didn't understand the game and didn't know how to win. We didn't need anything fancy or pretty. We needed simplicity. Lou and I drew up a 7-page playbook. Our only chance to win was to be tougher, mentally and physically, than our competition. Late in July, we packed up and went to a football camp in South Carolina with 5 other teams. The first morning, Lou and I had the whole team out for a 3-mile run at 6 a.m. Our boys didn't know what to think. They had never been asked to do such a crazy thing before, and they took a lot of ribbing from the other players. Coach Williams and Coach Miller had us convinced we were going to this camp in the mountains where it was cool. Remembers our quarterback, George Thomas? Actually, it was somewhere in South Carolina by a swamp, about 110 degrees in the shade. But we got up early and ran hard. We beat all the other teams in camp. We were just in better shape than everyone else. The teams paired up to scrimmage every day. We won the first 2 games we played. After that, 2 teams quietly joined us for our 6 a.m. run. For the first time ever, my players got a taste of winning. Other teams copying what we did? That had never happened to Baxley boys before. What a turnaround. It was exciting. But boy, did we still have a long way to go. Fall. Always after summer. Football officially started in August. The guys couldn't believe how hard we expected them to work. I had one rule. You had to come to practice. Everybody. Or you were kicked off the team. One day, Johnny Campbell, an offensive guard, strolled out to practice wearing his blue jeans. I said, "Johnny, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you suited up?" He said, "Coach, a bee stung my eye. See? He closed up, and my face is swollen. I can't get my helmet on." Now, I could see that his eye was shut and his face was swollen, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook. "What does that mean?" I asked, folding my arms. He looked a little confused. "Well, Coach, I can't hardly see out of that eye," he said, waving his hand around his face. I cut to the chase. "Johnny, if you want to play on this football team, you practice. Everybody practices. So either go put your uniform on and practice, or get out of here." "Besides," I added, "if you can play with one eye, just think how good you'll play with 2. He kind of blinked at me with his one good eye, then trudged off to the locker room to suit up. Excuses were the worst thing in the world to me. We lacked the size, talent, and speed of other football teams in our league. Soon we would be knocking heads with some of the best high school football teams in the state. Jessup, Waycross, Dublin. We couldn't change our schedule, but we could change 2 things. Mentally, we could be tougher than anybody else, and physically, we could work harder. Vince Lombardi said, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all." The Baxley boys couldn't win with tricks or gimmicks. They sure couldn't win with excuses. Our only chance of being competitive? Outwork the other teams. First game. The first game of the season, we faced Jefferson Davis High School in Hazelhurst. Lou and I had an extra incentive to win. Their head coach was Frank King, a fraternity buddy from our PC days. Frank often came over to my house for dinner, so of course this game carried more than a little friendly rivalry. Little did Frank know that Lou and I had him all figured out. Well, sort of. A couple of weeks before school, Lou and I took a little scouting expedition to Hazelhurst. We snuck through a swamp to watch Frank's team practice. There we sat in dawn's early light, spying and snickering to ourselves. We really had one up on old Frank, or so we thought. As the sun rose, we began slapping ourselves silly, covered up with mosquitoes. We were nearly eaten alive before we got out of that swamp. So much for that covert operation. Friday afternoon before the game, over our usual pregame meal at my house, Lou and I planned strategy. All of a sudden, a neighbor burst through the door. My little son, Art, had been in a bike accident. I rushed out of there. He lay on the highway, unconscious. He'd somehow gone over his handlebars and hit his head. Lou ran to get his car, and he and I rushed Art to the hospital. Angela followed in our car. 2 hours later, tests showed Art would be fine, but he was still in a coma. Dr. Bedingfield, a close family friend, assured Angela and me that he would be fine. Still, we were sick with worry. Angela encouraged me to go on to the game. I knew I needed to. It was my first game as head coach, but the thought of leaving my little son lying unconscious in the hospital was almost more than I could bear. Walking out the hospital door that afternoon was one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. Pep talk. Before we boarded the bus, I called the team into the locker room. Look, I said, choking up a bit. Nothing is more important to me in my life than my family. I just left our son, Art, in the hospital. I didn't want to leave him. He's hurting, and I'm hurting. Tonight, I better not see anybody feeling sorry for themselves. I better not see anybody not giving 100%. I expect the best effort of your lives tonight. Understand? The boys nodded, catching my emotion. The bus rode to Hazelhurst, silent and somber. Nobody said a word. The game was supposed to be an even match, but our Baxley boys played like lights out that night. We absolutely killed Jefferson Davis. Frank told me how impressed he felt as we shook hands after the game. What a thrill for the team. It was the beginning of great things for all of us. A friend raced me back to the hospital in his car, where I joined Angela at Art's bedside. The adrenaline of victory quickly drained away in the face of a contest that really mattered. We sat up all night, praying and worrying. At 10 o'clock the next morning, 18 hours later, our son opened his eyes. Just like Dr. Biddingfield said, he was fine. What a way to start the season. We're going to put a stop in it right there, because I know we got a lot of parents in our community, and got a lot of single moms, actually. And then we have some single moms that have never played sports. So I can only imagine what that must have sounded like. And there is no judgment. The passion that moms have for their children, here's all I want to say. That passion to provide and protect them with a proper schedule and the right environment can allow you to create a life for them that'll give them the security and quality of life that someone that's never been a mom or single mom could ever do. See, that passion is transferable. That commitment to want to do for your children, you can escalate that to business. You can escalate that to opportunities. You can escalate no excuses. You can escalate, just work ethic. You can escalate and transmute your passion for your kids into a passion for purpose, which turns into a passion for profits, to do more great things for not just your kids, for others as well. My name's Roderick H. Norville, Full Circle Podcast. What's your story? This has been another reading for LCAO Book Club. Coach, the Art Williams story. We'll see you tomorrow.